I made my high school bully kneel in front of me. I didn't want to come here. That's the first thing I should have trusted. When Nico shoved me a black wristband into my hand outside the club entrance and said, "Just try it once," I should have turned around. Instead, I followed him down the alley. The bouncer didn't even ask our names, just checked the wristbands and stepped aside. One nod, and we're in. The place was dim, lit in a low pulse of red that made everything feel like a heartbeat. Bodies moved through the haze like smoke, some bare-chested, some in leather, some in very little at all. It wasn't chaos though. It was curated and designed. Like everyone had silently agreed on the rules, and no one spoke above a murmur. I felt out of place, too clothed, too ordinary, like everyone could smell the anxiety on me. Nico leaned in, his mouth near my ear. "Told you this wasn't all whips and chains." I gave him a half smile, but my stomach was already twisting. This wasn't me. I didn't belong here. The air felt too heavy, too charged, like walking into someone else's dream. And then I saw him. Shane. I stopped breathing. He was across the room, spotlit by a low-hanging bulb, like the universe wanted me to make sure I saw him. On his knees, wearing black leather pants. Nothing else. Collar tied around his throat. Head slightly bowed. Hands behind his back. Still waiting. I must have made a noise, because Miko followed my gaze and let out a low whistle. "Holy shit," he said. "Is that?" Yeah. My voice came out thin, distant. That's Shane. Shane Morgan, high school royalty, star athlete, and my personal tormentor. The guy who called me Ghost Boy for 4 years and never let me forget I existed outside the lines. He looked me up, but not past me, at me, like he knew, as if I hadn't changed at all, and he still recognized the kid he used to pin against lockers. Then, he lowered his head and said, "Sir." The words cracked through my ribs like lightning. My skin went cold and hot. My heartbeat skidded. This wasn't possible. Couldn't be. I must have read it wrong. But I wasn't laughing. I couldn't move. My throat closed. Because for a second, just a second, I wasn't the man standing here anymore. I was 16 again, arms full of dropped books, listening to Shane laugh as I scrambled to pick them up. I was 17, hiding in the library. 18, walking across the stage at graduation with bruises I never named. And now, he was on his knees, waiting for me to say the next step. I didn't know if I wanted to run, or walk over, or tear something down just to feel it crack. All the wild things Nico used to say about the club. I'd never done anything like this. I didn't even feel like being around people, let alone a scene. I was used to being in control, alone, safe. 1 step forward. 2. Shane stayed perfectly still. My voice was quiet, but I didn't shake. "Is this a game to you?" He looked up, and for once, there was no smirk, no cocky grin, just blue eyes, clear. "No, sir," he said, and I didn't know what the hell was happening, but I wanted to find out. Nico's voice filled the void, low and amused. "Looks like karma wears a collar now." The next night, I told myself I wasn't coming back. All day I repeated it like a prayer. Through meetings, through coffee, through the cold walk home and my hood up and headphones in. I wasn't going back. I wasn't that person. But I was lying. As soon as night hit, my feet moved like they already knew the way. I thought I threw out the wristband. Swore I had. But when I reached into the coat I wore that night, there it was, stuck inside the pocket. Maybe I didn't want to let it go after all. And 24 hours after seeing Shane kneel before me, I was stepping through that steel door again, red lights washing over me like a sin I hadn't earned yet. He was already there. Same spot, bare chest, black pants, collar at his neck. snug and still, head bowed, hands behind his back. He knew I'd come. I hated that. Or maybe I wanted him to know. That part of me he used to mock, the soft-spoken stuttering kid he shoved in the hallway, was pulsing with something close to hunger. I walked straight to him, my boots loud on the floor. I didn't speak, just looked down. He didn't flinch, didn't speak first. "Look at me," I said. His eyes lifted, slow and obedient. The same clear blue, but not cocky now, not smug. "Is this what you want?" I asked. "Me?" "Yes, sir," he said without hesitation. And maybe that was the last time I thought I was the one in control. A few minutes later, we didn't go for the dungeon room. Too much noise. Too many eyes. I picked something private. Low light, padded floor, and a mirror in the corner I didn't want to look into. He followed me in silence. When I told him to crawl, he did. When I told him to beg, he dropped to his elbows, dragged his voice low and aching, and begged like he meant it. I told him he was pathetic, a joke, a washed-up pretty boy getting off on being used. He said, "Thank you, sir," and meant it. I should have felt victorious. I dreamed of this, hadn't I? Watching Shane fall apart, watching him break piece by piece. He made my life hell. Laugh when I cried, mock the way I dressed, the way I spoke, the way I existed. And now, he was the one on his knees for me. But it wasn't satisfying. It was something else. Because the more I pushed, the more peaceful he looked, like he'd been waiting for this, craving it, not the humiliation, not the pain. Me, that's what made my throat go tight. I pulled back before it went too far. He stayed kneeling until I told him we were done for the night. I expected him to gloat, to say something sharp, but instead, he got up slowly and reached for the blanket folded by the wall, sat beside me, offered me water. His voice was quiet. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" The boy who used to shove me into lockers was asking me that now. I took the water, didn't answer. "You didn't hurt me," he said after a beat. "Not really." I looked at him then. He smiled. Small, not smug. And there was something in it I didn't know how to name. Not victory, not submission. Something sad. And suddenly I didn't know who I was angrier at. Him? Or myself? I left without saying goodbye. I could still feel the shape of his knees on the floor behind me. 2 days later, the text came just after midnight. "Shane, still thinking about me? Or just waiting for round 2? Kissy face emoji. I stare at the screen like I might bite. The emoji made something tighten in my chest. Not desire, confusion. Inside the club he knelt, obedient, quiet. Outside he was this. Flippant, smooth, just cocky enough to remind me of the boy who used to grin while slamming my locker shut with his foot. I didn't respond. But the next morning, I found myself walking past the bookstore near the tram stop. The one with the crooked door and second-hand poetry books no one buys. Where I used to go there to disappear. And now I was standing in the hallway like an idiot. Because he was inside. Tall, confident, hoodie pushed up to his elbows. Fingers trailing the spines of books he probably didn't care about. He looked up. Of course he did. Like he'd been waiting. "Ellie," he said, like it was a discovery. Like I hadn't seen him. "You read poetry now?" I didn't answer. My fingers curled into fists in my coat pockets. He took a slow step closer, his voice lowered, playful. "You're different out here. All serious and magnetic. Intense." I snorted. "And you still talk too much." "I like making you react," he smiled. Not cruelly, but like he meant it. "You always used to pretend nothing got to you. Now I know that's not true." I turned to leave, and once at home, I opened my sketchbook for the first time in months. just to clear my head, just to put something down. I didn't even realize what I was drawing until I looked at the page. A jawline I'd memorized. A smirk that had my hands tighten around the pencil. Eyes I couldn't stop seeing, on their knees, or in the poetry aisle. Shane. I closed the textbook and told myself it didn't mean anything, but my hands were still shaking. Thursday night. I wasn't expecting anyone. The gallery was quiet. Me and just the hum of the lights and the low tap of my pencil as I logged inventory. Clean walls, bare floors, everything in its place. The way I liked it. Controlled, predictable. Then the door creaked. I looked up and there he was. No collar, no smirk. Just Shane in a worn denim jacket and holding 2 coffees like this was normal. He didn't ask if he could come in, just held 1 cup out. Oat milk latte? I remember you used to draw in the back of the library with one of these. Thought maybe you still liked them. You always had one during study hall, in the back of the library. I remembered, even when I pretended not to look. I stared at him. You tracked me down where I work. I asked around. He hadn't even pretended to be sorry. You're not exactly hard to find. I just wanted to see you. I should have shut it down. I should have told him this wasn't the place. Should have reminded him of who held the leash 2 nights ago. Instead, I took the coffee. We sat on the bench just outside the gallery window. Shane's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen and winced. Who's that? I asked. Nobody, he muttered. Locking it. Just someone who thinks he owned me. That's tough, I murmured. And he just nodded. The wind kept tugging at my coat. He didn't bring a scarf. Of course he didn't. So I decided to break the silence. You've always had that quiet gravity, he said, voice low. Even when I was too much of a coward to admit it. You weren't always like this, I said. So, who trained you? Shane's expression flickered. Someone who doesn't believe in softness. I looked over. His eyes weren't mocking. Just soft. Open. I don't want your apologies. I said it emotionless. It's not an apology. It's just the truth. The silence stretched. My hand was resting on the bench. And when he shifted, his fingers brushed mine. Just a second. Barely anything. But it burned. So I pulled back. You don't get to show up and act like we're something. I muttered. I'm not acting. His voice was quiet now. You saw me at my most honest. You made me honest. I hated that it sounded real. I hated it even more that I wanted to believe him. Friday night. I was still at the gallery when the door creaked open. After hours, the lights low. I hadn't locked it. Should've. Nico mentioned once, offhand, over coffee, that Shane's old dom was bad news. Guy has control issues, they said. The type who makes obedience feel like a debt. I didn't even ask for a name. I didn't have to. The man who stepped inside wasn't a customer. Not with that posture. Elegant, deliberate, dangerous. I recognized him the moment he stepped in. Tall, sharp eyes, and wearing control like a cologne. Avery, the dom who turned Shane into something unrecognizable. And yet, more himself. Slim, dark suit, blood-red shirt, bone-pale skin, and the kind of beauty that could cut glass. Aren't you gonna say hello? He asked. Like we'd met before. We haven't met, I said blunt. No? But we've got a shared interest. Shane. That confirmed things for me. He smiled, slow and exact. By the way, you might already know me. I didn't say anything, just stared. He walked through the gallery like it bored him, ran his fingers alongside a bronze sculpture, tisked. Tasteful, controlled, like your art. He noticed the sketchbook. Of course he had. He moved to it like it was a part of a performance, tapped one long finger against the page. You're good, he said. I like the way you draw mouths. a little too much arch in them, though too soft. I closed the sketchbook. Call it a professional courtesy. You're not a professional anything, I said. Avery laughed. Not anymore. But I was his first Dom. Long time ago. Long enough to know how he works. I didn't speak. You think you've got something special with him? Avery leaned forward. His voice dropped to something softer. Not kind, just quieter. Shane's addicted to being praised, Ellie. To being told he's good. It's not you. It's the feeling. You stop giving it, and he'll find something else to drip feed to him. I stared. I didn't blink. Before he left his hand brush across the closed sketchbook. Be careful, artist, he said. You don't want to draw yourself into something you can't erase. And then he was gone. Midnight. The club felt colder that night, even under the red heat of the lights. I found Shane kneeling in the corner alcove. Same position, same collar, eyes already on me. Sir, he said softly. My chest tightened. I shouldn't have moved. I shouldn't have come. But I had. I gave a nod. Wordless. Cold. And he followed. This time, I stripped him slowly. Told him to undress piece by piece. Hold his clothes folded in his lap like he was preserving something precious. Slower, I said when he hesitated. Yes, sir. I circled him. Leaned in, whispered. Is this what you wanted? He shivered. I wanted you, he said. Always. The words felt like acid. I pressed him up against the wall, bit his shoulder, told him to crawl to me and beg. I told him he was mine to use. My good boy. My toy. My mirror. He obeyed, looked at me like I was holy. That was the problem, because I kept wanting him to make a slip, for the old Shane to come roaring back. But he never did. When I told him to beg harder, he did, but not for pain. And to my surprise, he caught that. Please, he whispered. Don't stop looking at me like I'm real. I went still. He was naked on his knees, bruised where I gripped too tight, hair messy, lips red. And yet, he looked more composed than me. I should have ended the scene. Instead, I touched his hair, brushed it back like I was memorizing it. His eyes fluttered shut. A soft exhale. Not from the hurt. From me. From that. Some minutes later, I told myself I was leaving. That I'd had my moment, my vengeance, but my legs didn't move. And when Shane looked up at me, vulnerable and open, I didn't walk out. I sat beside him instead. Aftercare took me longer than it should have. I sat on the floor, hands moving automatically. Blanket, water, and a warm towel. I cleaned the sweat from his collarbone, checked the red marks on his wrist, gently pressed my fingers to the bruise I'd left. He watched me, quiet, no mask, no smirk. You okay? I asked softly. He nodded. Are you okay? That was the worst part. He meant it. I should have left right then. Instead, I brushed his hair back from his face, tucked a strand behind his ear. He leaned into the touch like it was everything. You don't have to perform for me either, he whispered. I stood up too fast. My pulse was wrecked. I'll see you around, I said, even though I shouldn't have. And I left. But his voice stayed with me the whole night. And I couldn't stop thinking. Who was really holding the leash? 3 days later, Nico swiped the wine bottle from my hand and set it out of reach. You haven't left your building in 2 days, he said, uncorking the bottle like it was a peace offering. Not unless you count Doom walks into the corner store for granola bars. I've been working. You've been sketching him, Nico said. Shane, over and over. Same tilt to the head, same collar. I didn't deny it. Nico poured a glass for me anyway. You need to break the loop. Go on a date. Let someone see you who doesn't kneel on command. I laughed. The laugh once dry. Like it's that simple. He handed me a glass. Just try. I have already on my mind. Go get ready. An hour later, the date was normal, which was a part of the problem. He was an architect, clean cut, a little nervous in the way that he was flattering. He complimented me on my glasses, asked about the gallery. I smiled, nodded and said the right things. But I kept looking at the door behind him, imagining Shane there, imagining what he'd say if he saw me here with someone else. I kept my phone face down on the table, but the urge to check it never left. When I got home, I didn't text the guy back. The next night, the storm started after midnight. Just soft thunder at first, distant. Then the kind of downpour that made the city feel smaller. I was in sweats, curled up on the couch, flipping through my sketchbook. Again, when the door knock came. Not a buzz, a knock. Direct, close. I hesitated, got up. If Nico was here to annoy my ass about the date, I'd kick him out. I opened the door, and Shane was there, soaked through, hood down, jacket clinging to him like it was a second skin, water dripping from his head into his eyes. He didn't blink it away. I needed to see you, he said. His voice wasn't smooth like usual. It was wrecked, quiet. I stood in the doorway, unmoving. The warm light from behind me cast a strange glow on him, like he was still a part of the storm. Were you in the neighborhood? I asked. No, he admitted, and there was a breath of honesty in it that made my chest tighten. I let my door stay open, just a little. He took that as permission to go in. I tried not to come. I thought I could hold out, that you'd text. But then the rainstorm started, and I didn't know. I kept thinking about you. I looked down at the hall. No one else in sight. Just him. Just us. You don't get to show up here like this, I said finally. My voice cracked on the last word. Like some soaked apology. Shane's eyes flickered up. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Then what are you asking for? I stepped outside, pulled the half door shut behind me. Because this isn't how you fix anything. He ran a hand through his hair. Rain dripped from his fingertips. I just needed to be near you. Even if it was stupid. Even if you slammed the door in my face. You want me now, I said low. After everything you did? He flinched. I hadn't meant to let it slip out that quietly. But it hit him anyway. I didn't know what to do. I know what I did, he said. I think about it every day. Do you? Yes. His voice dropped. I made your life hell. I remember every shove, every name. I remembered the way you stopped looking up at me when you passed me in the hall. He looked down now. I was 17 and scared out of my fucking mind. I didn't have a word for how I felt. I just knew you made my chest hurt. That you were something. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I pushed it. You bullied me because you wanted me? Yes, he whispered. Silence expanded between us like smoke. That was such a ridiculous cliche, but I couldn't help it. The kiss came fast, messy. I didn't know who leaned in first. Maybe we both did. Maybe it was just inevitable. My hands knotted in the collar of his jacket, his mouth desperate on mine. No rhythm, just ache. And then I pulled back, breathless, still furious. This doesn't fix it. He nodded, didn't argue. If you want me gone, he said, voice barely audible over the rain. I'll go. I said nothing. He stepped back, opened the door and slipped out into the storm. Tension between us thicker than the rain. I could still hear him breathing on the other side. I stood there, unmoving, wondering what to do. What to say. He didn't go far. I heard his footsteps pause, and then, as if he read my mind, he came back. I wanted him to come back. I knew he hadn't been able to walk away either. I stepped inside, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to. Rain dripped off his jacket, his shoulders shaking, desperate to the warmth in the room. I didn't speak, just walked past him, flickered on the bathroom light, and started filling the tub. The water filled the silence between us. Stream rising. Shane didn't move. Sit, I said, tired. We were freezing. He peeled off his jacket slowly, shirt clinging to his skin. I tossed a towel, but he didn't use it. Not yet. Shane, I said, soften now. Take the bath. He nodded and stepped out, shutting the door behind me. By the time he came out, wrapped in a towel, I had a clean shirt and sweatpants ready. He dressed in silence. The scent of the steam and soap lingered as he sat beside me. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the heat off him again. We sat on the couch, close, not touching. Eventually, he leaned against me, like he expected me to flinch. I didn't. We stayed there for a long time, fully clothed, listening to the hum of the heater and the soft patter of rain. His head on my shoulder, my hand on his forearm. No sex, no club rules, no collar. Just quiet. Can we just be? I asked. Shane tilted his head. Not Sir and Sub. I nodded. Just Shane and Ellie. No roles, no rules. Just us. He smiled, tentative, but real. Yeah, I'd like that. That night, we didn't touch much, just lay side by side, fingers brushing. And for the first time, it felt like starting over. After a while, he whispered, I don't know how to be wanted unless someone's telling me I'm good. Like, specifically, out loud. Like it's the only way I believe it. I looked down at him. His eyes were closed. His lashes were wet. You don't need to kneel to be wanted, I said softly. And you're not good just because someone tells you to be. You are because you choose to be. He didn't say anything back, but he turned his face into my chest and exhaled. And it felt like for the first time in years, he'd been allowed to breathe. The next morning came slow. I made coffee, burned the toast a little. He sat on my kitchen counter, wrapped in one of my old hoodies that hung loose around the shoulders. You're not going to spank me for snoring? He asked with a smirk that didn't quite cover how nervous he looked. I rolled my eyes. Only if you critique my scrambled eggs. He laughed. Soft. Real. We went to brunch with Nico, mostly because I needed a buffer, and he needed pancakes. Nico raised an eyebrow as we sat down across from him, Shane's hand brushing mine under the table like it was a secret. So, Nico said, sipping his mimosa, is this love or trauma bonding with room service? I didn't know how to answer. We're figuring it out, I said. Shane looked at me, and something settled in his gaze. No teasing, no smirk. Just silent hope. By the end of the week, Shane started therapy. He didn't make a big deal of it, just showed me the calendar notification on his phone with a shrug. Like it didn't mean everything. Later that night, he told me. My therapist asked why I submit. When I asked what he said, he whispered, because I like giving trust to someone who's earned it. I started sketching again. Not for clients, just for me. My latest piece was messy, unfinished, charcoal smudged and brutal. But if you looked at it closely, you could see it. A man kneeling. Not worship, just resting. A broken halo tilted above his head, and a hint of light behind him. We weren't healed, not yet. But we were moving. Groceries, rainy walks, dumb reality shows where we both picked favorites and then argued about them. Kisses that started slowly and that didn't need to end in anything. He still called me sir sometimes. Only in private. Only when he meant it. Most days he just called me Ellie. And most days I let him. Next Thursday, I stopped into the room, the jacket tossed over my arm, and froze. Shane was already there. Not waiting for an order. Just waiting for me. Something in me tightened. This wasn't a game. What changed? I asked, the words sharper than I meant. I thought you were done with this. Thought you'd walked away again. Shane's shoulders tensed. He met my gaze. I thought about it a lot. A lot. But I'm still here. I'm not running. My chest tightened. I hadn't expected him to say it so plainly. Yeah, I said, voice quieter. I'm still here too. I took a breath, steadying myself. You still want to try this? Or are you just stuck here? His eyes dropped for a moment, then met mine again. I'm not asking for a way out. I just don't want to give up on this. Not yet. The rawness in his voice hit me hard. Something inside me cracking open. Shane, I said, stepping closer. I've been here the whole time. I just didn't know if you were ready. He hesitated, then stopped making me earn it. Stop making me fight for something I don't even know how to deserve. I reached out, placing my hand on his chest, grounding both of us. You don't know. You don't have to fight anymore. Not with me. He looked at me, unsure. I didn't know what to do with myself without feeling like a mess. You don't have to fix anything, I said softly. Just let me in. He studied me for a beat. You sure about that? I stepped closer, heart racing, more than I'd even been. He smirked, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. So what now? We keep going, I said, shrugging. No rules. Just us. He cocked an eyebrow. You sure you're ready for that? I smirked, meeting his gaze. I'm waiting for you, not the other way around. His expression broke. Something he'd been holding on to let go. Hands in a mock of surrender. All right then, let's do this. No more running. Without another word, I grabbed his wrist, spun him towards me, and kissed him. Hard, fast, like there was no time left. The rain pounded outside, but all I could hear was the thunder of our hearts. Breathless, I pulled back, our faces still inches apart. No more games, I whispered. He nodded, his eyes burning with something new. Just us. The next night, the club was different now. The air, the music, the way the shadows fell over the familiar faces. They all felt distant, like something I used to know, but no longer belonged to me. He waited by the spotlight. Bare chest, rising and falling slowly. Black pants hugging his hips, collar snug at his throat. His eyes lifted to mine. And this time, he didn't kneel. Not until I crossed the room and took his hand. I wasn't just a spectator tonight. I was dressed to command. Not for performance, just for him. He stood waiting, not kneeling, not asking, just watching me closer. And when I reached him, the space between us buzzed like a wire pulled too tight. His voice came low, steady, but raw. I won't kneel unless it's for you. Every part of me stilled. This wasn't a challenge. It wasn't submission. It was something else. A choice. He was offering me something he hadn't dared name. Not a scene, not a memory. Us. The walls I'd spent years building tried to rise again, but I stepped through them. One breath, one gesture. I touched his shoulder, not as command, but as an answer. I didn't need him to prove anything. I didn't need to win. So I guided him down, slowly. Not as a dom, not as a past, but as a partner. And before I knew it, I was kneeling too. Face to face. No roles, no noise, no club. Just this. The world faded. All that remained was the space between our knees and the silence we filled together. No more games, I said. My voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. He held my gaze, steady, present. There was nothing performative in it. Only the quiet trust I hadn't known I craved. For the first time, he wasn't waiting for an order. And he wasn't trying to hold the reins. We were just here. I brushed my hand along his cheek, fingers lingering. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. He let out a breath, like it had been caged in his chest for years. And I felt it. The release, the weight slipped off both of us. We weren't kneeling at each other. We were meeting. Just us, he whispered. Yeah, I said. Just us. And for once, that was enough. Conclusion. We never really talked about that night again. Not in the way people expect. No big confession, no dramatic retellings over drinks. Just a slow unfolding. 6 months later, I moved in, with 2 suitcases and a plant I promptly forgot to water. I still can't fold laundry right. Shane still leaves half his coffee in the mug, but my shoes sit next to his by the door. Some mornings I wake up to the sound of laughing in the kitchen, burning toast while barefoot dancing. We still have bad days, quiet ones, messy ones, but they end with his head in my chest and my hand in his hair. There was no scoreboard, no one keeping track on who flinched first, who stayed. We both did. And somehow, that's everything, and I'd never been happier. The end. Have you ever fallen for someone, thinking they were completely off limits? Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force. And stay wholesome.